Hey-o, so we are going to go ahead and get back to just some great installation content for you. We're going to do it all by hand, tap, 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 and we're going to look at one of the greatest apps that is out there. We've been talking a bit about it lately, but I realized, you know what, we need to get you guys back to doing this on your own, else you're going to get lazy on me. Don't want to do that. So we're going to go ahead and look at LivePortrait here. We can take a image. This was created in Flux, and then just do something like this, just with the webcam, and then we're going to put it all together, and we're going to get something that looks like this. And of course, you can do better sound quality than that was. That was just a quick little 3-minute kind of a deal. So we're going to jump into the actual manual installation of this, and we're going to get into running this so that we can have animals doing the eye changes and the mouth opening and all that as well too. So very exciting stuff coming up. But before we do that, please go ahead and like the channel, hit the share, hit the notify, all those things, because we got to get the view hours up. We got to get the message out there so that people can get involved with what we're doing. And I certainly do appreciate you being involved in that process as well. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate you. So let's go ahead and get ready to get going. And here we go. Yo. Alrighty, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to head back over to our browser, and we're going to be looking for this repository, the LivePortrait. So all we're going to do, we're just going to type LivePortrait GitHub. Okay, we're going to bring it up here. You see it's by QuiVGI. Click. Alright, we're going to bring us up here. As usual, as per our normal agreement, we're not going to just download the repository, okay? Because remember, you're not just grabbing everything you see. You're looking for the instructions. So we're going to scroll down here. It says Introduction, Getting Started. There we go. Clone the code, prepare the environment. So this is really not that difficult of a process here, but we do have to go step by step like normally we do. Okay, there's certain things we're doing, particularly when we're using our NVIDIA, and the instructions don't always cover every little bit. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to tell you a secret. There's a mistake. There's error here in this repo. So we're going to go ahead and fix that, because it'll run, but it won't work. So we're going to fix that going on here. But first, we're going to go ahead and follow our basic instructions. So notice, as usual, you got to have Git and Conda and FFmpeg installed. If you don't have those, then you need to go over to YouTube and look up my videos on how to install that. It's not that bad, but you shouldn't be doing any of this kind of stuff if you can't. If you don't have those basic things. In fact, you can't do any of this stuff. You'll just make yourself frustrated. So make sure you've got your complete setup first before you move forward. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead. Before we do this, go over to our command prompt, and let's make sure we're in the directory we want to be in. So I'm going to just create a temporary directory. I'm going to type mkdir. That means make directory. And I'm just going to call it temp install. Now, you probably don't want to put this in a temp install directory. You might want to put it in one called LivePortrait, or in one called My Apps, or something like that. So whatever you type here is what you're going to make. I'm just going to make one called temp install, mkdir, and it's going to make it. Now I'm going to type cd temp install, and that means change directory, and you're going to notice I am now in my temp directory. Okay, yo. So now what we're going to do, we're going to pop over here, and we're going to grab this command, and I'm going to explain this command to you. So what we're going to do, we're going to just go here, and all we really got to do is press Control V, and then it'll paste it. Now Git is, what it's going to do is going to call an app called Git, which is going to actually go to GitHub. It's going to find exactly where we're at in the browser, and it's going to grab the code, and it's going to pull it down. It's going to clone it. Okay, so it says, hey Git, I want you to clone something. What I want you to clone? This directory, and it's going to create a folder called LivePortrait. So we're just going to hit enter. Notice it's cloning. It downloads like this. Okay. All right, and then it's done. If I type dir for directory, you're going to see that there is now a LivePortrait directory. Okay, so we'll go back here, and it wants us to change directory to go into LivePortrait. So we will do that. We can just type in cd LivePortrait. Done. Okay, now you'll notice we're in the LivePortrait directory. If we type dir again, you'll see all of the files. Cool. All right, heading back to our browser. Now we're going to get into the meat of the stuff. We're going to create our virtual environment. This is very important because if you don't do it, you can end up polluting your system, and you end up spending a lot of time reinstalling your system because something's just not working. It's basically like you install something on the base system, and it's global. Okay, and then you get another app that wants to use it. It needs a different version. It's competing with the global version. It's just like, it's a headache. So what we do is we use virtual environments. It's like putting paper down. It's like letting the kindergartners, giving them crayons, but before you give them crayons at the table, you put down a big thing of crepe paper. Okay, that's what our virtual environment is going to do. So we're going to just paste it in here. CUDA is the name of the thing that does. It's the name of the virtual environment program. Install Mini CUDA. This is why Mini CUDA is important. Turn this glare off just a little bit. There we go. Hey-oh. All right. Now, we call CUDA, then we tell it what we want it to do. We want it to create a virtual environment. Okay. Now, it puts -n, okay, which stands for name, and then it's going to call it LivePortrait. And then what it's doing over here, so this could be anything. It could be called My Virtual Environment. But whatever you call it, you're going to have to call it every time. We're going to stick with what the app does because the installation instructions are probably going to expect it to be called this. So anyway, so we want it to create a virtual environment called LivePortrait, and then we're putting Python 3.9, which means that it doesn't matter what Python we've already got installed on our system. What we want it to do is to install 3.9 onto this virtual environment. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to add one more thing here. I'm going to put a -y, and that just means that I don't have to. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to create this? And just say it'll just do it on its own without me having to worry about it. All right, so let's go. So it's going to go through here. Going to create the virtual environment. Okay, so it's done. All right, now your virtual environment is done, but you have to activate it. So we're going to type CUDA. Okay, we're calling the program activate LivePortrait. All right, simple. Now notice over here on the left it says LivePortrait. We are now in our virtual environment. Congratulations, shake your hand, you've done a good job. All right, so now we can install stuff in here without it getting all messy. So let's go back and look at our instructions. Okay, here you can see it wanted us to activate the LivePortrait. We've already done that. So now it says for Linux or Windows users, Xpose requires your Torch version to be compatible with the CUDA version. So okay, we can do this. So I always just give you the instructions on how to do stuff in 11.8, but I'm going to show you how. If you got something different on here, we're going to find out by doing this. We're going to go here and we're going to type NVCC. This is our NVIDIA CUDA stuff. And we are just going to type -V. Okay. Now notice it's going to run this stuff up here, and you're going to find at the bottom build CUDA. So mine is 11.8. Now it's going to be important once we install this thing. You're going to need to know this number, so keep that in mind. Maybe yours will be 12.1. If it's 12.1, it's okay. I would downgrade to 11.8, but you can do all this with 12.1 as well. So now that we found that out, okay, we're going to go back to our instructions, and notice it actually has over here, this is nice, it has our Torch stuff all set up for us. Usually if we want to find this out, we would go to a new tab and we would type Torch install, and then we would go over here, and then we would follow this process and we would get the same thing. But this is actually good. This is actually good stuff here. So I'm going to grab this one here. Okay, well, I'm going to grab it in a second, but before we do that, we're actually going to have something else we need to do. So let's actually go back to our command prompt and let's make sure our CUDA toolkit is installed. Okay, this is one thing that sometimes we forget, and then everything else depends on it being accessible. So we're in our virtual environment. Well, here's what we're going to do. We type conda install. So we're calling the Conda program. We're saying we want to install something. We're going to go -C, which means we want to look into a certain catalog. Just like if I'm buying from a certain store, I got to get that store's catalog to find what they have. What's the store we're looking at? The NVIDIA store. And then what's the product I want? CUDA toolkit. And I want the 11.8. Now, if when you pressed this NVCC it says 12.1, then just change this to 12.1. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and install that, and it will go through it. Now, mine was already installed. But if yours isn't, it'll just say, are you sure you want to do it? You go, yes, and then it'll download it and get it going. Good stuff. Now let's pop back over to our browser, and now let's grab the instructions for our torch. Okay, so we're just going to highlight the one. We don't need all these, we just need the 11.8. Again, if you have the 12.1, grab that one. Okay, so we're going to go back to our command prompt. Gosh, man, my windows just keep getting lost on top of each other. We're going to hit Control V. Okay, so we're going to do pip install. Pip is the Python package installer. Okay, so it's the same thing as like what we did with Conda install. It's going to pip install what's installed. It's going to install Torch version 2.3.0. It's going to install Torch Vision and Torch Audio. So the spaces in between these are saying install this package, this package, this package. And then we're using this index URL HTTPS to say, well, we're using the index URL to say we want you to get it from here. It's kind of like what we did with our catalog with Conda. Okay, so we're telling it where to get it from, and we're saying get it from the repository that has the CUDA 11.8 version. So we'll go ahead. It's going to download that and install. Now Torch is a kind of a big install, Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time. Mine's already downloaded and looks like it's going to still be installing. I think I deleted my virtual environment, so it'll take a little bit of time. Let's crack on over to our browser, see what our next step's going to be. Okay, we can scroll down here and it sees that it's going to have us install our requirements. Okay, cool. So we can get ready for this. We can just go ahead and copy it. Same thing as always, or hit this little button. Notice over here, it's got an install for Mac OS. So hey, good for you Mac guys, because I know a lot of times this stuff don't work for you. That's kind of cool. My hand's going off screen there a little bit. How did that work? Oh, it's this hand. Okay, anyway. So you'll be able to do that. All right, but we are in Windows since we're reasonable people. I'm just teasing. We're going to grab this one, and we're going to head back on over to our command prompt, see where we're at. So this is still installing. So while this is installing, we're just going to go ahead and pause, and we'll be right back when it's done. Okay, and that was hilarious. Like literally the split second that I clicked pause, it finished. Okay, so let's go here now. And let's hit Control V. So package install is what we're doing, pip install. And then we're using this -R, which means we want to read what we're going to install from a requirements or from a file. -R stands for read. So the other time, remember, we put pip install and then we named the applications we were going to install, the packages. We named Torch. We named Torch Audio. This one we're going to say all of that is inside of a file. What's the name of the file? Requirements.txt. Okay. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to hit enter. And we're just going to watch it go, and it's going to install all this stuff. And for this one, we will hit pause and be back in just a moment. All right, and we're done. So it'll probably take 3-4 minutes to install. Now, this is kind of cool what they've done here. Our next step here is we're going to be downloading the weights. In other words, we're going to download the models that are going to do the work. Okay, the AI. We're actually downloading the AI brain. Yo. Okay. Now, in the past, you had to do this manually, and it was a pain. They have added the ability here to just directly download them, which is very cool. So we're going to go ahead and highlight this. Okay, don't bother with that exclamation mark. To highlight everything except for that and that. And what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our command prompt. We're going to paste this in. Now, Hugging Face Hub, this is where the models are stored. So what we're doing is we're installing something kind of like our Git program that allowed us to download the repo. We're downloading a command line service that reaches out to the website grabs the stuff and pulls it down for us. Okay, so same thing, we're using the pip to install it. Okay, and then we're downloading Hugging Face Hub, and then these brackets with the CLI means that we're downloading the command line interface. Okay, go ahead and install this because you probably don't have it installed. Okay, so it will go through that, get it done. See, it doesn't take very long. Okay, now we're going to go back to our browser and we're going to highlight this. So this is our command. See, now we can actually use the command Hugging Face CLI. Okay, and so we're going to go back. We're going to copy that, Control C. We're going to go back to here. Let's just clear the screen. I cleared the screen by typing CLS. We're going to hit Control V for paste, and you'll see now we're calling Hugging Face CLI. We want it to download. Oh, well, we can. Here, I'll show you over here. And we want it to download. That's we're telling, but we're saying that we're looking for a certain repository. Since we're dealing with Hugging Face, we don't have to put HTTPS because it assumes that you're talking about its own website. And this is the name of the website. You can see it up here. Okay, and then it's saying get it, put it into a local directory, get the pre-trained weights, all this other stuff. So, so it's loaded. That's a nice loaded command for you. All you got to do is paste it in. Now you can see it's going to download. Okay. Now this is going to take a little bit of time. Let me see if I spread this out. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that looks. Yeah, I don't know. It just comes down looking wonky. But it's going to download. It's going to take a while. You can see these are a bit big. 113 megabytes. 19. There's several 115 megabyte ones. 182, 435. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get these, especially if you don't have a rip-roaring internet. So you're going to have to be patient. And part of being patient is waiting for me while I click this pause button. We're going to be right back. Okay, and we're done. It's weird here. You'll see it actually is done. It screwed up my screen, but I'm going to type CLS to clear the screen. And we actually have downloaded the models. So if we go back to our browser now, see what the next step is. The next step is it's got all this inference. So this means if you want to do it by hand, like you actually want to type in all of the commands, yeah, we don't want to do that. Screw that. What we want to do is run it by hand. But just when you thought we were going to do that, no, actually, what we want to do is we want to get the animal stuff installed as well. Okay, so we're going to take a break, wipe the sweat off our head, okay, and then we're going to the next step of making sure that we can do animal faces as well. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get this animal faces installed. Okay, so what we're going to do, notice we've got to go into a different directory. So we're going to change directory, and by what it's doing here is it's actually putting you into multiple directories. If you type the first directory, then the second directory, and the third directory, and so on, you don't have to type each one. Otherwise, you'd like CD src, CD utils, CD dependencies, and so forth. So what it's having us do here is giving us a little shortcut. So if we go back over to our command prompt, we just paste that in, and it's going to take us directly to that folder. Okay, so it's going to save you a lot of time. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to call Python to go ahead and install. So by pressing Control P, we're using the Python command. Whoops. The Python command, and what we're having it look for is a setup.py file. And inside that setup.py file is going to be a whole lot of instructions on what to do, and then we're passing it some parameters. We want it to build this thing and want to install it. So there's going to be instructions in there that tell it to do these things. So let's go ahead and press enter. Notice we're still in our virtual environment. Okay. And we will sit here and wait for it to do something. Okay, and that is installed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pop back to our browser, and we're going to see that they have given us this command. We're going to go ahead and install the animals. So the CD is change directory, and what it's doing is it's giving us several directories within directories to go to. Otherwise, we would have to type CD src, CD utils, CD dependencies, and so forth. This is a little shortcut we're using to get directly to where we want to go. So go to our command prompt, put that in there. Notice it puts us in there. Okay, now going back to our browser, we're going to highlight this next command. Go back to our command prompt. Okay, so what this is doing is it's calling Python, and it's saying, Python, I want you to run this file. So a .py file is a Python file. All right, and then we're passing it some dependencies, build, install. So there's probably something inside of this file that's looking for these commands so it knows what to do. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Okay, and then it's going to start to run this. And what it's actually doing is it's building a program that it needs. So if you go back here, you'll see it's actually building this this package called multi-scale deformable attention. Okay, so don't ask me. All I know is we need it. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and install that. And there it's done. Okay, so now we move on to actually running this thing. So what I'm going to do a little shortcut here. Now you could do this like this count. We need to get back to our LivePortrait folder. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You could go like this. CD 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a lot. And what that does is it takes you back one directory for each one of those. Now I went a little bit too far, so I'm going to go CD LivePortrait to go back in. Okay, now if we go to our browser, you're going to see, we scroll down here, we've got two modes here. We've got humans mode and we've got animals mode. So you can't just run the humans mode and get the animal stuff to work it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a batch file that will, well, that's what you want to do. Create a batch file that will allow you to choose between these things. Okay, but in the meanwhile, we're just going to go run one at a time. So let's go ahead and copy this, go back to our command prompt, and since we're in the LivePortrait directory, we can just say python app.py. But actually, I want to show you what's going on. We're going to have to fix something first. So actually, you know what, before we do it, let's just fix it. Because, well, now I'm going to run it so that you can see what the error is, so you recognize what it is. Let's go ahead and run this, and the app is going to run, but there is going to be a problem with it. And I'm going to show you how to fix it. And I guess the reason I'm letting us run with the error is just so you can get an idea how these things work in case you run up against it in the future and you're like, why did that do that? And then you'll remember. All right, so now it's loaded up and it's on this this local server. So we'll just double click it to highlight it, okay? And then we're going to go back to our browser and let's just go to a tab, put it in there, and put it up here. Now we're in the app, but now watch this. I'm going to click on, oh, this one works, so I already have it on there. So what will happen the first time you install this, you actually will get an error and it won't load up. So I thought that it was going to error out, but evidently I already installed it on my computer. But let me show you. If you click on one of these images and it doesn't pop up and it pops up with an error, which it will, okay, this is what you do. You go back to your command prompt, okay, you make sure that, where's that command prompt at? Hold on just a second. You make sure that you're still in your virtual environment. And what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade a file called fast API, or a package. So we're going to type pip install. You make sure you do this, fast API. And now go equals, you got to put two equal signs, 0.112.2. And then you put dash force. So we're going to install a very specific version of fast API and we're going to force it to be installed. Okay, so sometimes what happens if you don't use that force is it'll just use the cached one. It'll be like, oh yeah, I'll put the new version, but it didn't. Okay, so when you first install this program, it will not work. It does not work with the requirements they had. Okay, the reason it worked on mine was because I'd done it previously. Evidently, I installed that globally, so it worked. But yours will not work. If you come up there and there's an error, that's how you fix it. You install the fast API. Okay, then we can go back in here again and you can type python app.py and you've got it running. let's go over here and figure out how to run the animals. Okay, so let's go back over to here, and you'll see down here there's one called animal.py. So we'll copy that, go back to here, and same thing. We're calling Python. We want it to run a Python file.py. We want to run the animals one. So we're going to click that. Same thing. It's going to load up. Takes just a second. And there you go. Same thing. Grab your server, paste it in there, and it looks the same, but now you got animals that you can upload onto this thing. Okay, you can click drive in video to, okay, and then you click your animate, and oh, whoops, God, everyone's showing it. So you click the animal, you click up here where it says drive in video, you get the thing you want to put on there, and then you go down here and click animate. If you go over back to your command prompt after you click that, you'll see that it's animating. Okay, so you can see it progressing. All right, so last thing we're going to do, let's go, while this is doing its thing, let's go back to our browser here, and let's get these two commands. We've got animals.py and we've got app.py. So let's rock on over to ChatGPT real quick, and let's say, let's paste it in there. Let's get rid of all this. Okay, and we're going to do this. So say, make a bat file that does the following. Conda activate LivePortrait CD LivePortrait. So we're telling it what we want to do. We want this bat file to activate the virtual environment. Okay, we want to go into the LivePortrait thing. Then what we're going to do is to say, then give the user the choice between human and animal mode. If human, and then we'll have it do that. If animal, and we'll do it like this. We'll give it numbers. Okay, and then we'll just hit enter, and here's a batch script. So it's going to give us our batch script. Okay. All right, so now all we're going to do, we're going to just copy that, or hit copy code, okay, and then we're just going to go back to our command prompt. Actually, this is loading our GIF. So let's actually cancel out of this really quick. We're going to hit Control C. Okay, now we're just going to type, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to type Notepad, and we're going to just call run, let's go _.app bat. Okay, that's going to pop up a thing that looks like this. Okay, do you want to create a file? And say yes, and we're just going to control, oh, it didn't work, so let's go back to our browser here, copy our code again. Okay, now we're just going to go back over here, paste it in, and we're just going to save it. Okay, now if we go back to our command prompt and we type run app, it's going to pop it up. Which mode do we want? Human mode, animal mode. And then you can click it, okay? And it's going to do it for you. It's going to activate the environment. It's going to load it up. You're ready to go. You're done. Okay, that's great. Then you can make a shortcut of this, drag it onto your desktop, and then you don't have to type anymore. So let's really quickly look at what it made with this animal thing. So there you go. Hey, yo! The roof's on fire! I guess, something like that. Alright, so there you go, guys. We did it. Whew, wipe your forehead. That wasn't that bad a process, okay? It's just you got to make sure that, like with all this stuff, you do it step by step. You got to get the CUDA toolkit installed. You get the right torch. You install the things the correct way, make sure in their correct folders, and everything just kind of falls right into place. And then we made that bat file. So I taught you how to use ChatGPT to make bat files, so you're going to be typing that all the time. Bat. And so there you go. We're going to end it there. You guys stay good. If you have any questions, hit me up. Find me on the Discord. I'd love to see what you're working on, okay? I'm excited for you. All right, so you guys hang in there, be good, and as usual, we will catch you on the other side. Yo.